Welcome, welcome everyone. So I'm Angela Beeson, and then we have along here, we have Miss Henderson. Julie will be monitoring the chat room, and Miss Henderson and I will be doing the presentation. And today's presentation is on diabetes management, basically self-management. So our organization is a nonprofit organization, is a 501c3. It's based in Brooklyn, the home of Caribbean immigrants. Even though Caribbean immigrants are all over, Brooklyn is the home. So this evening session should be very interesting. Interesting in the sense that it has to do about food. Whenever people are diagnosed with diabetes, the first thing they think about is, what am I supposed to eat? So we're going to get to that. So today, this evening's presentation is about that. What are you going to eat? Because lots of immigrants enter this country and sometimes they're not used to the screening, but fixing things after it's broken. And we want everyone to be able to participate in the assimilation process, meaning settling in a new country. If you're settling in a new country, you need some form of good health. Good health is a prerequisite, is needed first in order for you to enjoy all the other things that comes along. In order for you to get the job, because we help you with the preparation for the job. If you have careers from your country, that we can help you to have that validated to an equivalent to what we have in the United States, so you can get, become gainfully employed instead of making wrong decisions, especially for our male population who are often deported because they misunderstand the process. Okay, so without any further delay, let me start. We are the United Immigrant Migrant Assimilation Project, and we're based in Brooklyn. Ms. Anderson will take it from here. She'll go into prediabetes and the prevalence of prediabetes and diabetes in one's family. I want to share a story. Before we start, my father actually recently died due to the complication of diabetes. So this is very personal for me and my heart is in it. So Miss Henderson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Okay, so
evening.
we'll start with pre-diabetes prevalence, insulin and sugar, glucose. Approximately 96 million Americans adults are affected. 1 in 3 have pre-diabetes. More than 80% don't know that they have it. Pre-diabetes increase risk of the 122 million people worldwide have diabetes. About 1.5 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes each year. More than 37 million Americans have diabetes, about 1 in 10, and approximately 90 to 95% of them have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes most often develops in people over age 45, but more children, teens, and young adults are also developing it. Prediabetes can development in type 2 diabetes. That should be can develop, right?
Yeah.
But body can no longer make enough insulin or can't properly use its own insulin. Muscle and other cells stop responding to insulin, causing a state known as insulin resistance. Insulin level keeps increasing to manage the demands. Not enough insulin causes blood sugar to increase in the blood. Over time, the heavy demands on insulin cells to make insulin wears them out, and the insulin production stops for the body. Sugar levels become higher and higher. Diabetes developing over years of this repeated condition. What we do, we rely on medication for magic. We believe in fixing broken. We take more drugs than any other country in the world. Med errors. Every year, 1.5 million people are harmed by medications. It's costing 3.5 billion. Diabetes self-management. So these are the self-management to lower your A1C levels, prevent or reduce diabetes complications, improve quality of life, manage stress, and lower your medical expenses. Large studies show that people who ate less carbs in a balanced meal, less fats, and exercise 30 minutes per day or 150 minutes per week delay the development of diabetes, while others are delayed complications. First, it is important to understand food choices and how they affect your blood sugar. I'm gonna go back a little bit before Ms. Beeson start presenting. And we're gonna talk about, I'm not sure if everyone understand what A1C is the goal. The goal is usually around 7 or below 7. It depends on the age of the person and what the doctor wants. This is the blood work that they do to determine if your sugar is controlled.
Thank you so much, Ms. Henderson. So
Yeah.
looking at the lock and the key, insulin is the key that unlocks that cell. Think about your body like a door. If you don't put the right key in, it's not going to open. So insulin is the key that unlocks it. Most people are afraid of insulin, but we'll go more into that at a much later time. And at the end, we'll explain it. But as Ms. Henderson says, the A1C is a part of the diagnosis. Always ask your provider what's that number, because they used it to help diagnose you, and they use it every visit to reevaluate you to see how well controlled you are. So you want to know that number. When Ms. Henderson spoke about prediabetes, it also has to do with that number. That number is basically creeping up. If you don't do something to stop it, it's going to go right into creep into diabetes type 2. And when you get in there, you develop more and more complications. And that's why we're having these sessions, to help you to understand better about the management of your diabetes. If you don't go to your provider, if you don't go and seek health care, you won't know, because it's a blood test. And who is doing the blood test but your provider? Sometimes we believe that once we get diagnosed, food is our enemy. It's not our enemy. It's just that we have to know how to use it, right? And as we say, it's a lock and key. So if we're putting food in the body, we put it in the mouth, we chew it, it starts absorbing, and all the way through our GI tract, our mouth straight to our butt, has work to do with the blood sugar, right? With absorbing sugar and using it for the body. The body uses it as energy source. Don't these food look wonderful? They are delicious. They look good, and thinking about them, they're delicious. But the type of food that we should eat, it's a variety, not too much of anything, especially carbohydrates, because carbohydrate is where we get most of our challenges from, the sugar problem, carbohydrate. And carbohydrate, you see, we have the dumpling, we have the rice, and sometimes, have you ever seen those dishes where you have the pasta, you have the dumpling, this nice plate with ackee and saltfish and dumpling? When you think about the ackee and saltfish, you also have to think about the cholesterol level, because how much oil are you consuming? And in the dumpling, that dumpling, it tastes good, but it has a lot of butter in there, and it's fried in oil. So you also have to think about your heart vessels, how managing this additive. So all of that, most people, they tend to go and they will have, say, in addition to having the dumplings, they might have 3-4 dumplings just to soak up the ackee and saltfish. They will have maybe a bowl of porridge, because dumplings and ackee and saltfish it's a Caribbean breakfast. And did you notice how much vegetables are located in these meals? You're getting minimal. So you want to get add more vegetables to your plate. You will have more energy, because you want to eat for your health. We're going to go into label reading, and label reading is key. These foods have no label readings about them. It's sort of a guesstimate. You should compare them to slices of bread. My nice foods with little vegetable and lots of carbohydrate, big meat, big starch, and little vegetable. I love going to the restaurants. When you take a nice snapshot of the foods in the restaurant, when you prepare those plates, it looks delicious, very delicious, but don't do it so often. Reading food labels, it will help you to determine which carb you want and when you want it. Carb allows you, it helps you to have your energy. You need the energy. And carb counting is easier when the information is on the food label. The plates that we looked at, we're not able to determine, and this is a guidelines, the government requires pre-prepared food to have labels. You have labels on nutritional labels on everything. Every food you have nutritional labels on. So you need to find the right balance between carbs. And the reason why we want you to read the label is it has to do with how much carbohydrates are in that food. And the amount of carbohydrate determines how quickly your blood sugar is going to raise and how high it will go. And if you're managing blood sugar, you have to pay attention to that. We talk about carbohydrate. We told you A1C is monitoring. Now we're talking about carbohydrate. And then you say, what is carbohydrate? Carbohydrate is all the stuff that contains the sugar sources that your body needs. So carbohydrate are the body's main source of energy. Carbohydrate are sugar, starches, fiber found in fruits, vegetables, and milk products. That means carbohydrate is all around you. It's hard not to eat it. And it digests at different rates as well. So carbohydrate digestion, the digestion, you would think that it starts someplace else, but it starts from your mouth and go all the way down into your intestine where things gets absorbed fully, and the garbage get tossed out. And that's where you need more, you need to add more fiber, because the fiber, you get that satisfying taste and then it goes someplace else. Sometimes we need more fruits and vegetables, but it all has to be in proportion, a balance, a variety of everything. So some things take longer to digest, some things are faster. Most refined carbohydrates are faster. And when you're eating, the body says, ooh, matter of fact, the body starts preparing with the digestive juices in your gut and your mouth. Once they smell that wonderful aroma, that food is coming, get ready to eat. So all your system is getting ready and your insulin is coming out and going, and in preparation for this sugar entering, I needed to put in the cell. If you don't put it into the cell, it roams around in the blood, in the circulation. And then when you get that finger stick, that random finger stick, or if you go and you have your blood checked, if the insulin and the carbohydrate is a mismatch, you will have higher level of, we say sugar, we say glucose in the bloodstream. So there's some things that don't make your blood sugar go up so quickly, and it's mostly your vegetables. Wouldn't you like for your gut to look like this? Your gut will be very happy, but you still have to chew it to break. You have to assist with the process. Men and women, our digestion and absorption rate can vary, and we need all this stuff for energy. And you can get carbohydrate out of these vegetables. They might look boring, but yes, there are levels of carbohydrates in there, not a lot to spike you. And as a person managing diabetes, you want to have more of vegetable content in your meals. Have a variety, not too much of anybody. If you want to do too much of somebody, use the non-starchy vegetables. It gives you a filling feeling and it gives you the vitamins that you need. So some samples of what a starchy carbohydrate is versus a non-starchy one. Non-starchy vegetable, you have your lettuce, cucumbers, broccoli, cauliflower, very little carbohydrates. So very little impact on your blood sugar, but you're still getting that, feeling, the satiety. Your brain is going, yes, I am satisfied. I have food. But your starchy food, like your rice, your potatoes, your peas, your corns. Most people think that having having a porridge, such as cornmeal, at breakfast and having the dumplings at breakfast also is the best thing that they can do, but sometimes not. And it's very important to monitor the blood sugar to see where you need to go. and how these foods are having an impact on you. If you don't know, you don't know what you can do. And refined foods, lots of us do that, that quick snack. I see people, the kids running around with honey buns, juices, and that's supposed to be a meal. But we're robbing kids of valuable nutrients as we rob ourselves too. Blood sugar and glycemic index. They're things that make your blood sugar go up faster than others. Sometimes we go, just drink a juice, drink a soda. We're looking for nutritional value, that food that affect your blood sugar, that will make you go up faster or slower. And you want to do the things that brings it up slower. You're not looking for a big spike quickly unless your blood sugar is low. And that's basically based on how you're feeling and testing to verify. When we talk about glycemic index, it's how quickly foods containing carbohydrate raises the blood sugar. And you don't want the blood sugar to raise too quickly. So we have ratings, things that are 55 and below. These information, don't pay too much attention to them as yet, but because they're not listed on your food labels. Glycemic index is important information for you to know. The lower it is, the less likely it is to spike you, but the higher it is, like above 70, it will bring your blood sugar up faster, such as when people say about white rice, white potatoes, they're things that are higher with a higher glycemic index. So yes, they're providing you with nutrients, but at the same time, they're pushing your blood sugar up very quickly, as opposed to the brown, it absorbs at a slower pace. It doesn't mean that you should eat more. You could eat the same quantity, but just know that it absorbs slower and you don't get hungry as quickly. It's not an exhaustive list of foods that have of low glycemic index. These are things that you need to know. If you have diabetes, if you're pre-diabetes, you also need to know, because it becomes that work to control blood sugars now and in the future, because you want to decrease the complications that are associated with the disease. And it doesn't get better if you don't do anything about it. It's time to take charge of your health. And that's what self-management is about. So we're talking, there's so many things about diabetes management, but most of it lies in what you do at home. There's no magic bullet. As Ms. Henderson said it repeatedly, there's no magic bullet that's going to fix your diabetes and stop your diabetes from progressing if you don't do anything about it. You have to do something. Here it is, label reading. On the label, you have carbohydrate, the carbohydrate level, and it says 33 grams in and there's 2 servings in the container. The serving size is 1 cup. So if you take 2 cups, you have to multiply this number. The carbohydrate, it's 13. So you multiply 13 by 2, is 26 grams of carbohydrate that you're consuming for that one thing. Do you want to use all your carbohydrates there? In a meal, include whatever, if you're taking sugar in a meal, whatever you're taking in a meal, make sure that you keep that carbohydrate in mind. Try to keep your meal not more than 60 grams of carbohydrate in a meal. For female, a little less, about 45 grams of carbohydrate. This label tells you about a lot of things that you could pay attention to. Today, we're focused on carbohydrate, the carbohydrate content in the food. Those 2 numbers, serving size, the carbohydrate content. Know that if you go more than the serving size, if its serving size is 2 per container, you're multiplying the numbers, deciding if that's what you really want. Okay, let's look at how much sugar do we really consume when we actually have beverages. Oftentimes, we always think that like Nesquik, some people take that and give to children and say that's nutrition, great nutrition. However, You see the amount of sugar in one container, but if you share that container, you share the amount of sugar that between you and somebody else. And you see the portion is put to the side. Each container has a serving size to the side. So in each one of them, it's telling you that if you take 1 cup, this is the amount of carbohydrate this is the amount of sugar that's in there. The amount of cubes of sugar. How many cubes of sugar do you actually add to something that you're drinking? If you go to make a cup of tea, how many cubes of sugar are you adding to it? These are things that you should really think about the next time that you grab for a juice. And even juices that says 100% juice. And I'm glad that we have a variety of juices here that you can pick from, because we usually drink one or two of these. You have the apple juice, you have the orange juice. People always say, drink a lot of this, drink a lot of that, hydrate that, but nothing beats water. If your blood sugar is low, it's understandable why you're drinking a lot of these things. But if you do, at any time, you have to add it as a carbohydrate, as part of your carbohydrate intake. The next thing that we have is about the next goodies. We all do this stuff. The Capri Sun is what I see parents often given to children. The Nesquik and the Capri Sun, because we think it's fast, quick, and healthy, but they're better choices. Use the fruits, So there's many samples. Do you look at the amount of carbohydrate that's in a cup of, say, cappuccino? Did you read that? Was that really your intention to consume so much? Red Bull at 8-ounce can is 7 teaspoons of sugar. Gatorade, full of energy, 14 teaspoons of sugar. So think about the next time that you give it to your children or you consume it yourself. My father was a Pepsi drinker. And as you saw, Pepsi was full of sugar in any size. God rest his soul. We have Sprite is in 1 can of Sprite. So alcohol has sugar. Alcohol has sugar. And I want to warn you, if you have diabetes, and it's important that you actually eat before you it's important for you to eat before you start consuming alcohol. Yes, alcohol has sugar. Eat before you consume it, because people have ran into serious trouble consuming alcohol on empty stomach, because food has to come from someplace. And the reason why we don't starve is because the liver is always feeding us. It has an excess store and it's always feeding us. So if we stick alcohol in the system, and the liver has to detoxify, the liver has to detox the body from the alcohol that you put in there. It's not going to let it put out the sugar that it's supposed to put out in order to feed you and keep you safe. That's why we don't pass away at night from not eating. Some people say, oh, I'm going to die if I don't eat. I'm dying to eat. But, we got to give the body the props. The body is always feeding us, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're up to, right? So, yes, you can drink, but in what amount? Beer and wines has carbohydrate. Most people might not think that there are carbohydrates in beer and wine. As I said before, alcohol is broken down by the liver, and the liver has to feed you. And if you have it busy cleaning out alcohol, it's not going to feed you. It's going to block sugar from being produced and feeding you. So you will really get into trouble. Some people run into conditions such as a very low blood sugar. Initially, their blood sugar goes up because what? alcohol has sugar, so the blood sugar will go up initially. But after that, that constant feeding phase, it's not happening. After this, we're going to chat a lot about diabetes management, and why it's so important for you to do your piece, because your provider is looking at the numbers and treating you, providing you with the best information and best services. However, they only see you for 30 minutes, if that long. So you need to do your part, and that's why self-management is so important. In terms of references that we can give to you, we a reputable source that will give you information about diabetes, and we recommend these sources for you to use, because these sources are reputable. They get researched information. Remember, diabetes has been around for a long time, and every year, just about every year, there are more specialized drugs that are coming out. Some are more expensive than others. It's so important for you, as if you're managing diabetes, so important for you to really, really pay attention to what's going on around you. You have control of that. Control your blood sugar. Know your A1C, because that's what your provider is using to monitor you. Every 3 months that you go, the provider is using the A1C to monitor you. It's hemoglobin A1C. The reason why that it's a blood test, the hemoglobin, the sugar is attached to the hemoglobin. And that's what the provider is using via the lab to tell how well you're being managed, or whether to increase the medication, decrease the medication. But whatever you do, start something. Drugs are not miracle. It's a starting point. Because if you don't control it, it's going to go up and up and up. When we say use fruits and vegetable, eat a variety, eat more fruits and vegetable. Some people take it literally, eat more fruits and vegetable. But remember, fruits have its own sugar. Fruits have sugar in there. So if you eat a lot of it, you're going to have the same consequences if you were eating a dumpling, or eating slices of bread. You don't want to do so much of the fruit. But let me share a story with you before we go to the questions. There's a gentleman whose provider told him, basically, your blood sugar is high. I want you to eat more fruits and vegetable. So each time he went back to the doctor, the doctor says, why is it that your blood sugar is still so high? He said, I'm eating all the right things. I'm eating fruits and vegetables. So it's when she actually sat down and have him explain to her how much fruits and vegetable he was actually eating. He was eating more fruits, because fruits are sweet. We love to eat things that are, comfortable to our palate. So eating more fruits, his blood sugar was still going up and up, until the provider identified that that's the cause. Then he was able to scale back to say, okay, instead of eating 2 ripe bananas, I can eat 1 banana, or I can eat a half. Instead of having a mango, because mango is our Caribbean favorite. So if we eat a mango, and I have a story about the mango situation too. If we eat 1 mango, sometimes we eat a big old mango, and God help how much carbohydrate is in that one, because it's not listed on the label, and we have to guesstimate. So it's important to learn how to share our food, because our food will screw us over. I was in Jamaica 1 year, and I met this gentleman. He was doing transportation, transporting goods. And as we drove behind him, I said to someone that I was with, I said, he either have prostate problem or his blood sugar is too high, one of the two. So as we got to the the location to drop off. I discussed that with him, and he said he have a little sugar, and he's on pill. However, looking at what he ate, he was eating early in the morning. He's eating yam and banana and dumpling, large quantity in a plate. He was having fruits too. He had a large mango, and he was having something to drink. He was having a bottle of juice. And that's typically how we eat as Caribbean people. But we're not aware of, yes, we can eat it, but we have to make the right choices. What's going to bring up our blood sugar? By him just drinking that bottle of juice, based on what we say about glycemic index, some food bring it up more than others. That sure wasn't a low glycemic food, so it's going to bring up his blood sugar. And the medicine that the doctor is given to him, thinking that it's going to work, it's not going to work as well. Diabetes care is very expensive, very expensive. So guess what? Work on prevention. Work on prevention. I have one young lady on this evening. I hope that she's able to share her story. You can go from pre-diabetes and go back to no diabetes, or you can let it linger around and turn into type 2 diabetes. And now you're trying to figure out which drug that's going to control it best. But you have the power. The drug doesn't have the power. You have the power in your hand, because if you're not doing the exercising, if you're not monitoring what you're eating and addressing and eating in moderation, and don't pay to kill yourself. We have enough drug issues with drugs in this country. Ms. Henderson told you about the amount of people who die every year from drug problems. And that's from legal drug problems, prescribed drug problems. So you have a job to do. You can control your blood sugar, and there are lots of resources out there. You just have to dive in, ask the questions, and work on it. Miss Allison, she's a nutritionist, and she's also a certified diabetes educator. And you see all the variety of foods that she has. That is super. Food is our thing. Food heals.
One of the main things that I noticed in our society, or people even from the Caribbean, is that one of the main thing that when people are diagnosed or they go to the doctor, a lot of our Caribbean folks don't really quite understand their blood work. And one of the main blood work that I noticed that I do request a lot, that a lot of doctors are not familiar with, is the C-peptide.
Yep.
And I have found so many times that people are misdiagnosed or being treated differently when a client or a patient has a lot of insulin on board, but yet they're dosing them either with a lot of insulin or they're not treating them correctly. And yes, we focus a lot on their food, but if the background part is not being taken care of correctly, they get misdiagnosed. And I get a lot of 1.5 misdiagnosed people, and a lot of people from the Caribbean, they actually develop 1.5, but yet they're still treating them like they're type 2. And they're struggling and thinking that it's their fault, but their body's just making insufficient. That's one thing I would really like to, that we are aware of that.
Very good point, because a lot of people are diagnosed and they're trying to do everything that they can, and they are challenged. And that C-peptide level, especially on diagnosing them, will make a big difference. Because a lot of especially a lot of type 2 people who are type 2 with type 2 diabetes, they do produce insulin, but it takes a lot higher dosage over time to take care of the same food. And it's so important to always identify the underlying cause. Don't expect that there's a magic bullet. Pre-diabetes leads to diabetes if you don't address it. There's no magic bullet, but you have to get moving. That's why we have we have limbs, and they actually did a study. They did several studies, and in those studies, it showed that when people actually did the exercise and take their nutrition part seriously, they were able to decrease the complication, delay the complication, or prevent diabetes fully. Pre-diabetes, it's a lot of people, millions of people who has pre-diabetes and don't know, and the lack of awareness becomes that detrimental thing for them in the going forward, because complication starts early. If you're diagnosed, most of the time when people are diagnosed with something, they're depressed. They become depressed because because as you say, Miss Allison, it's that people blame themselves. They become depressed. They become saddened, and then sadness can lead to depression. And then think about it. When you're sad, you're just trying to figure out which one, how do I solve this? And it really takes a toll on you, even make things worse. And controlling diabetes and pre-diabetes can make a difference in how you feel, and how you feel can make a difference in how those diseases are controlled. I hate to say the word patients are pre-diabetic. I don't like to say that. I don't want to attach the name. It's a condition. Pre-diabetes can lead to diabetes, but that's a good point to be. Once you are aware of it, you can actually do something about it to prevent it from going into being type 2 diabetes.
And most doctors now, they start treating pre-diabetics because they want to prevent you from becoming a diabetic. So they start treating early. But in the past, they used to just ignore it, but now they're treating.
Yeah, I'm sorry, are there going to be like tips or so on that are shared or?
Okay. Initially, earlier we started out, but carbohydrate.
No, I mean, are you gonna, is there like like notes that could be emailed out that I could look over?
I will get you notes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't want you to go over everything. Oh no,
No problem.
that I could look
no
over
problem.
on just some quick things that I could put into effect, because I noticed that my energy level has just really been, going really low for the past couple of weeks.
Mhm.
So I know I need to really, I need to move this pre-diabetic further away from that, in the opposite direction. So yeah, if you could email me some tips, I'll put my email in the WhatsApp so you have it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We're here for you. Miss Allison, please clarify that.
I wanted to find out if the people that are on, are they healthcare providers or they're patients themselves or people with diabetes?
Okay.
It's a variety. Some people, healthcare providers.
Okay.
And I must say, even if healthcare providers are here, we get it wrong frequently as well. We do. So there's always opportunity to learn and share.
Angela, can I share my story for anybody that a lot of times, like a few years ago, when I was developing diabetes, one of the main things when I went to my healthcare provider, they told me that I needed to be on metformin because my mother had diabetes and my grandmother died from diabetes complication. But the key thing, if you could understand that, and I know as a nurse practitioner and as a healthcare provider, and I've been doing this for over 25 years, one of the main things is we focus more on the symptoms than more on what is causing the underlying cause of what the problem is. Mm-hmm. And when I took my own health in my own hands, I was able to reverse diabetes. So I went from an A1C of 6 point something. My A1C over the last couple of years has been 5.3. So I defy the odds and I have reversed my diabetes. So I think what happened is that we have to change our environment and we have to change the way our mindset is. And a lot of times we say it's our culture. Like you were talking about the dumpling and the ackee and all that. We say it's our culture, but our culture is who we are. Is that necessarily means the food that we're eating? And we're holding on to those things. And even though it might be making us sick, we're still holding on. A lot of my so-called culture I had to get rid of. And that's how. So if I go to the doctor now, there's no evidence of me having diabetes. So, and the reason why I didn't treat the numbers, I treat what was causing my number. Because I always say, Angela, I said, even somebody can come to you, and if their numbers are high, you can give them a dosage of insulin and you can drop their numbers, but does that help their diabetes? And that's the issue where we have to start learning that is the environment, just like what Andrea was talking about. We have to first change our environment before we go forward, because if something is in your house, it's going to be in your mouth. You know, instead of fried plantain, we have air fried plantain. You know, instead of fried breadfruit, we have baked breadfruit or boiled breadfruit. So those are the changes that we have to make. And it's not a changes to get our numbers down, but it's a change for the rest of our lives. Because the young lady that asks about prediabetes, if you reverse prediabetes by changing your environment, if you go back to that lifestyle, it's coming back with a vengeance. And I think that was so great the way that you brought that out, you know, with the food and everything. So, but it can be reversed, and I've done it, and it can.
So you did it completely with by changing how you eat?
I did it completely in changing how I eat, changing my lifestyle. Because a lot of times you always look at chronic disease, you look at it as, oh, if I can just change what I'm putting in my mouth. But no, it's an overall lifestyle. It's what time you go to your bed. It's what time you eat your last meal. It's how you look at food. How is that food going to affect your life? Are you reading what you're eating, like what Angela was talking about? Are you reading what you're eating? Are we even an example for our patient? Because we have to be that example. Yeah, so I changed a lot of things in my life in order to accomplish that.
Yeah, definitely. Prevention, it's true. Prevention is better than cure. And finding out the underlying reason. In healthcare, you meet a lot of people. And today I met someone who I was just so excited for her, because A1C, once you go, you're 5.7 or more, and less than 6.4%, you are pre-diabetes. You have pre-diabetes. You're in the pre-diabetes state. Once you go over 6.4, then you become diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The goal is to control it. The best control is less than 7%, 7% or less. Believe it or not, the numbers can go way up. You might be 5.9 now, but you can go to 12.9, 13, 14. It's the leading cause of blindness. You can go blind. I don't like to tell people the doom stuff. I like to tell people about the uplifting stuff. You can do it. You need to get walking. Lots of time your body makes the insulin, but it's not sensitive. Your body is not sensitive responding to that insulin. You have to go, you have to move. If you don't move, once you move, it increases it decrease insulin resistance and make your body more sensitive to your insulin. I
Yeah.
met one lady was introduced to me during COVID, and her doctors were threatening to put her on insulin. She was on a couple of medications and she did not want to go on insulin. She didn't want to inject herself. So we worked on it. I spoke to her every day for about 2 weeks. And guess what? she her A1C was 11 point some. And by the next 2 months, when she went to her provider, they were shocked because now they have to decrease her medication, including blood pressure medicine. It came down. And she was motivated to do something about it because she was losing her sight. There's diabetic retinopathy, which affects the vessels in the eye. Blood pressure affects the vessels in the eye. Diabetes affects the vessels in the eyes. So my dear, we have to do something. This is my baby. Why? I have family members who have died from diabetes complication. My father, my precious father, my darling father, died from complication of diabetes. And I want to, anybody that I can help, I am willing to help.
Our mayor too is a great example. He came to my diabetic class. When he diagnosed, his A1C was 15, and he brought it down without medications, just by changing his diet and exercising. He brought his A1C down to 6.5
Mhm.
from 15.
Yeah, Eric,
So it can be done.
Mayor Eric Adams,
Yeah,
current mayor of New York City, Eric Adams.
But what did he do though? That's the question that you have to
He
ask
started-
yourself.
at first he enlisted himself with this doctor that taught him how to eat plant-based, and he makes all his meals. He said he has a stove in his office. He bakes his own bread, makes his own meals, and that's the way he did it.
And what about the plant-based do you think that did it? Do you know?
I guess because he's preparing his own meals,
Okay.
he understands what not to put in, what to put in his portions. Because when you buy stuff from outside, you don't know what they're putting in it. So that's why he started making his own meals and portion control. And he was able to do it that way.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why that happened, because that's what I use. I use plant-based to reverse my diabetes. And at first, when I did it, I was like, there's no way this is gonna work because I don't eat junk, I don't eat out. And I'm like, but then when I look at the evidence base and 100 years of studies that's out there, and the government knows it too. And when I looked at everything, and I was like, I went back to biochemistry, I went back to all the things that I learned in school. And I said, well, okay, the only thing I haven't tried was plant-based. And I was like, why does plant-based work? Plant-based work because you have to understand what insulin resistance really is. Insulin resistance, and like what Angela was saying, that, you know, like to add to that, when you first get diagnosed with diabetes, you only have like 30 to 40% left of your insulin on board. So how are you going to make that more insulin sensitive? And insulin sensitive means that you take a small amount of insulin and let it function like 100%. And that was what Angela used that word, to be more insulin sensitive. So what the mayor did was address the root cause of prediabetes, and most type 2 diabetes was the fat that was in the food. And that's what he used. And if you go back into the history of it, that's what he used. And when I saw the history, and that's all I did, that was all I did, and changing so many other things, and it reversed my diabetes.
Are you still using plant-based?
If I change from plant-based, then I would go right back to what caused it. Because what I did, I removed what was causing the problem. And that's all I did was remove what was causing the problem. And the problem was a lot of saturated fats, a lot of processed things that we were unaware of. And that's what I used, and literally reversed it and went to A1C of 5.3. So that's what I did. And it's been a couple of years now. So, and so what Angela is saying is so correct. You know, we're eating so much processed foods and you know, so many things in a bag, and you know, all these processed carbohydrates. So that's I mean, to be honest, I mean, I don't know if this is a platform to say it on, but to be honest, I eat 16 servings of fruits a day.
Did you say
Yeah.
16?
16 servings of fruits a
Okay.
day. Yeah, but I couldn't do that before. Because that's what Angela was trying to explain to you, is that when you are in the state that you are now as pre-diabetics or type 2 diabetes, you can't be eating all that sugary stuff. You can't be doing that. Your blood sugar is going to go high. But after you remove the culprit, then you'll be able to do that. But I commend Angela for really taking that initiative to bring this information forward, because in this industry, you're not going to get somebody like her that could really have that passion to just bring this information and let you know that, you know, you can do something about it. You don't have to be tired. You don't have to not have the knowledge. And that's what she's trying to do. So I commend her 100%. 100%.
Thank you.
And it's not for everybody. The whole whole food, low fat, whole food, plant-based is not for everybody. What works for you may not work for me, you know, but you just change one meal at a time. Change breakfast, and then change lunch, and then change dinner. That's all you need to do. Listen to what she's saying and just start making those small changes, little bit at a time. Don't do what you see everybody's doing. Do what works for you. You listen to your body, and your body will speak to you. It speaks loud. And I won't take any more time. Thanks, Angela.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you. Thank you, because it validates what we're saying. So I thank you guys so much. And again, I want to tell you about our organization. If you want to join us, you know, let us know. Let us know. We welcome everyone. It's the United Immigrant and Migrant Assimilation Project. And what we do, we connect new immigrants with resources to help them to succeed. Because if we don't help them to succeed, people get in trouble, especially young men. Some people in their countries, they might not have been held accountable for certain activities, such as they could be a baby daddy for a whole bunch of people and they don't have to pay child support. But they come to the United States and they do the same thing, and they now being held accountable. And sometimes they get involved, they're going to get involved with the law, next thing you know, they could be deportable. And hurt people. If they're deported to our little countries that don't have the resources to address most of their issues, guess what? The cycle starts over again, and it's not going to help anyone. And an ounce of prevention is better than cure. If we can educate new immigrants about how their roles and responsibilities, we can decrease them being deported. We can increase their quality of life and assist them in achieving the true American dream without having to think about, I have to run from the police. I have to run from my baby mama. I've been driving drunk. Some people think that when people are deported, it's because, you know, money is going to come. And about 10%, for example, in Jamaica, there 10% of the population, of the homeless population, were people who were deported. And we can't fix that without going to the root causes. Initially, we started an organization called Involuntary Return Mecca. And the reason why we changed is because we had to address these issues. And most of our immigrants coming in, they don't have the resources. When they go to a clinic, they might not find someone who's going to sit down and explain things to them. And oftentimes they're also resistant. So every opportunity that we have that we can share information, about health, about managing diabetes, about managing high blood pressure. It will help them to live a better lifestyle and be able to enjoy the things that are coming to them. If you want to join us, you can support us by spreading the word. You can donate, you can volunteer. And I thank you very much for this evening. And even though we're supposed to end at 8, it was so interesting that we went over, but it's been great energy. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.